There is a very specific kind of vulnerability that really only exists in a massive, hyper-connected metropolis.
Oh, absolutely. It's that feeling of being completely surrounded but totally exposed.
Right, exactly. Like, you are surrounded by thousands of people, the noise is deafening, the streets are just packed. And on paper, I mean, it feels completely anonymous. It should logically be the easiest place in the world to disappear.
But it never is.
No, it isn't, because then, you notice someone matching your pace, you take a random turn, and they take the exact same turn. Suddenly, the very infrastructure that makes the city so great, the straight roads, the clear sight lines, the bustling crowds, it all just starts to feel like a trap.
It becomes a cage.
Exactly. So, welcome to today's deep dive. For you listening, we are exploring a really fascinating excerpt from the narrative Chasing Death, episode 54, The Trailing Shadow. And it is this incredible, ancient, high-stakes game of cat and mouse.
It is such a phenomenal text to break down. I mean, we are tracking two travelers who are just desperately on the run. First, we have Asha, this young woman who is forced to travel hidden beneath a very heavy masculine disguise.
Which sounds so uncomfortable, by the way.
Oh, incredibly. And second, we have her protector, who is a highly trained Syrian warrior named Idris. And basically, we are following their paranoid flight through some of the most legendary ancient megacities in human history.
All while they're being shadowed by this relentless, nameless spy.
Right.
So the stakes are just incredibly high for these two. But I think what makes this source material so compelling isn't just the sheer tension of the chase itself. Our mission for this deep dive is really twofold.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers here.
There really are. So first, we're going to dissect the tactical and, frankly, psychological reality of their escape. But second, we are going to explore the incredibly vivid and I'd say surprisingly modern depiction of the ancient Indus Valley cities of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa that serves as the backdrop for this whole ordeal.
It really is a character in itself,
Yeah.
the city.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Our story starts in the early morning light as this dust-laden caravan enters the gates of Mohenjo-daro.
And right away, I mean, the text establishes this baseline of vulnerability. They secure lodgings in a bustling caravanserai, which, is essentially a massive ancient inn for merchants.
Like an ancient hotel.
Yeah, exactly, an ancient motel. But before they even step foot into the actual city streets, Idris lays down a completely non-negotiable rule. Asha must keep her male disguise.
No exception.
None. He makes it very clear that until she is standing on the physical threshold of her parents' home, her life absolutely depends on remaining clad in that protective, anonymous dress of a man.
Which tells us that even though they have finally reached civilization, they are absolutely not safe.
Not at all.
But they do eventually venture out into Mohenjo-daro. And I kept reading this section thinking about just how wrong our modern assumptions are, because I think we tend to picture ancient cities as these isolated, kind of primitive, muddy settlements.
Right, like just a bunch of huts or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But the text describes this highly engineered environment. We are talking about streets and marketplaces that are impeccably paved with sturdy kiln-burnt bricks.
And that detail, the kiln-burnt bricks, is where you really see the sheer scale of this civilization. I mean, it's easy to gloss over, but a kiln-burnt brick is fundamentally different from a sun-baked mud brick.
Because mud bricks just wash away.
Yeah, exactly. Mud bricks dissolve in heavy floods. Kiln-burnt bricks require immense central planning. You need a specialized labor force to run the kilns. You need to control vast timber resources to fuel those fires 24/7. And, you need standardized measurements.
Wow.
So it means the city wasn't just growing organically. It was a highly organized, heavily engineered project.
It's like they were building the city out of ancient Legos.
That is a great way to put it.
Because they had these standardized, durable materials, they were able to build sophisticated infrastructure. Like, the text notes that every single dwelling possessed a complex drainage system carrying wastewater efficiently away.
Which is huge for public health.
Absolutely huge. And they had deep wells sunk into the earth in several neighborhoods where these massive camels hauled up cool water in giant leather buckets. It honestly sounds less like a secluded ancient fortress and more like, I don't know, an ancient Manhattan or an ancient Silicon Valley.
Yeah, a real hub.
A place that was actively drawing in talent and wealth because the infrastructure was just so reliable. But that brings up a question for you listening. We usually think of ancient cities as isolated, right? But the text specifically mentions permanent residents from China, Egypt, Syria, Sudan, Babylon, and Tyre. How does this level of diversity change our understanding of the ancient world?
Well, what's fascinating here is that this mingling of peoples is absolute proof that Mohenjo-Daro was an economic magnet on a truly global scale. It wasn't just a rest stop. It was an economic powerhouse.
Right, because it points out that these weren't just passing travelers. Their steady gait, their confident bearing, and their familiar dress proved they had actually settled there for good.
Which completely shatters the illusion of the ancient world being culturally homogeneous. People from across the known world chose to make their lives in the Indus Valley. And you can see that prosperity reflected in, well, the easiest historical metric of wealth.
The food.
The food, exactly.
The food descriptions are just incredibly specific. They stop at a local tavern, they sit on this brightly stained wooden bench, and they eat a meal of thick, rustic barley bread dipped into a rich camel meat broth.
Making me hungry.
Right. And it's alongside freshly roasted Indus River fish. And Idris actually marvels at it as an economic indicator. I mean, he is a widely traveled warrior, but he notes that the only thing that rivals this in his memory is a meal of fresh charcoal-roasted fish kebabs he had along a riverbank in Maria years ago.
And notice what that abundance means for a society. When even the local taverns are serving high-quality, diverse meals, and ordinary people are walking around in pristine white garments, you are looking at a civilization operating at the absolute peak of its power.
Yeah.
But of course, a wealthy, cosmopolitan megacity introduces a completely different kind of threat.
It really does. Because while a bustling, diverse metropolis is a great place to hide, it is also the absolute perfect place for a professional hunter to blend in.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the sudden, chilling shift in tone at the tavern.
It's a seamless transition from, marveling at the local autonomy to sheer paranoia.
It happens so fast. They are eating their meal, and this man approaches their table and just sits on the very same bench. Asha is completely oblivious. She's eating with her eyes cast downward, lost in thought. But Idris immediately senses a shift in the atmosphere.
His training kicks in.
Right. He notices the stranger watching Asha with this unsettling, fixed intensity. And the moment Idris locks eyes with the man, the stranger instantly feigns total indifference. He shifts his posture and pretends he's just deeply interested in his barley bread.
Like nothing happened.
Yeah. It's the ancient equivalent of someone staring at you on the subway and then suddenly looking at their phone the second you notice them.
It is classic surveillance behavior. The spy realizes his observation has been detected, so he immediately attempts to de-escalate and just blend back into the background noise of the tavern.
But Idris isn't buying it.
No, he is far too experienced to dismiss it as a coincidence.
He doesn't even finish the meal. He slaps some copper coins down for the tavern keeper and instantly leads Asha out of the city. But where he takes her is what really caught my attention.
To the cemetery?
Yes. He takes her to the ancient royal cemetery of the dead, just beyond the city walls. And the imagery here is striking. They are walking at the foot of a great earthen mound. There are these ancestral tombs of ancient kings, crowned with brilliant glazed blue domes.
It sounds beautiful.
It does. The entrance features a towering, cone-shaped gateway made of crimson stone, and sitting right on top of it is a colossal black stone statue of a bull, which the text notes was a sacred object of worship in Mohenjo-Daro. But tactically, as a reader, I was questioning Idris's strategy here.
How so?
Well, if you know you're being followed, why walk into a quiet, open cemetery? Wouldn't you want to lose the guy in the crowded, chaotic market you were just in?
Right. It seems counterintuitive to leave the cover of a crowd. But tactically, it is actually brilliant counter-surveillance.
Really?
Yeah. Idris has a problem in the crowded market. There are simply too many variables. If he thinks he's being followed by a professional, he can't confirm it in a crowd of thousands because people naturally walk in the same direction in a market anyway.
Oh, that makes sense.
By taking Asha to a quiet, isolated, restricted location like a cemetery, Idris is effectively filtering the environment.
So he's forcing the tracker to make a definitive move. If someone follows them into a dead end like a royal cemetery, it's no longer just a coincidence.
Precisely. In modern espionage terminology, it's called cleaning a route. You introduce an unnatural geographic anomaly to your path, and it works perfectly for him here.
It really does.
Idris leads Asha in these long, looping circles through the winding paths of the tombs until she's completely exhausted. She's begging to go back to the city, but Idris keeps scanning the horizon. He knows he can't just confront a man based on a gut feeling, especially when the spy is acting like an idle wanderer. But then, the environment filters him out.
Yeah, Idris spots him. The mysterious figure is pressed flat against the ancient brickwork of a tomb wall, staring with an unwavering, predatory gaze directly at Asha.
Chilling.
And the moment the spy realizes Idris has caught him in the act, he flinches and recoils into the shadows. Suspicion confirmed. But now they have a terrifying new problem.
They have to get back.
Right, they need to get back to their room at the caravanserai without the spy following them, because if he tracks them back, he knows exactly where they sleep.
And they get incredibly lucky here because a massive environmental distraction presents itself.
Total chaos erupts in the cemetery. The tranquil hush is just shattered as a massive crowd surges through the pathways. Word spreads that the reigning prince of Mohenjo-daro is arriving in state to offer prayers at the royal tombs.
A perfect distraction.
Exactly. Idris doesn't hesitate for a second. He grips Ush's hand, pulls her completely free of the surging crowd, and drags her down a secluded side path. She is bewildered, gasping, but Idris pushes them through to the main road.
And then the getaway car.
Basically, yeah. They catch a passing bullock cart, press a handful of coins into the driver's hand, and essentially hijack it as a getaway vehicle, speeding all the way back to their caravanserai.
It is a moment of pure adrenaline. But notice the operational security Idris maintains here. He doesn't explain anything to Asha in the cart. He protects her from the panic and waits until they are securely locked inside their own chamber before he shares the reality of their situation.
And when they finally catch their breath in that dark room, the reality is grim. Asha asks who could possibly be hunting them. And Idris reveals the antagonist. He says there is no doubt in his mind. This spy is an agent sent by the one-eyed prince of Egypt.
A ruthless, highly resourced figure. Idris explains that this one-eyed prince has likely sent spies and bounty hunters into every great city across the known world.
Wow.
He's basically running a massive decentralized dragnet just to find any trace of Asha.
It's almost like trying to escape a modern targeted algorithm. The prince has cast a net so wide that even in a cosmopolitan hub thousands of miles away, the system flags her.
There's a great comparison.
But this brings up a really fascinating conflict regarding Idris's character. Asha is terrified and asks if they should flee the city immediately. And Idris suddenly gets very defensive of his pride.
Oh, his ego definitely flares up.
It really does. He drops his hand to the hilt of his sword, strikes his foot against the ground, and fiercely declares that he is fully prepared to fight them to the bitter end. He says, "I have trained under the most formidable warriors of Egypt and Syria. No matter how many men they send against me, they will not overpower me."
Which is a very human moment of bravado.
Right. But it made me wonder, if he is genuinely that confident in his martial abilities, why didn't he just ambush the spy in the cemetery? Why run away and hide in a room if he believes he can win the fight?
That's a great question, and it speaks to the fundamental dilemma of the bodyguard. Idris is clearly a man of immense pride. His natural instinct, forged by years of training, is to turn and fight the threat.
Sure.
But his sworn mission is not to prove his prowess in battle. His sole objective is Asha's safe delivery to her parents' door. A street fight, no matter how confident he is, introduces an uncontrollable variable.
Like he could slip, or there could be a second spy.
Exactly. It jeopardizes the principal asset. If he falls, or even if he is merely injured and delayed, she is left entirely defenseless. So we see him actively suppressing his warrior's ego in favor of his protective duty.
He's choosing discipline over pride. And because he chose discipline, Idris is convinced they successfully threw enough dust in the spy's eyes to slip away clean. He tells Asha to rest, puts out the flickering oil lamp, and immediately falls into a deep sleep on his carpet.
But Asha can't.
No, Asha cannot sleep. The paranoia has totally taken root. And this leads to what might be the most psychologically terrifying scene in the text. Asha is lying wide awake in the pitch darkness. She is staring at the chamber window, which is heavily barred with iron.
Setting the scene perfectly.
Outside, there is a deep blue night sky glittering with stars, casting these pale shadows across the floor. It is perfectly quiet. And then, without a single sound of warning, a man's sinister face appears at the window pane, peering intently into the darkness of their room.
It is pure psychological horror. The sanctuary has been fundamentally breached.
Asha lets out a scream. In the blink of an eye, the face vanishes. Idris bolts awake, grabs his unsheathed sword, and charges out into the night courtyard, totally ignoring Asha's frantic pleas to stay with her.
And he finds nothing.
Nothing. When he gets out there, there is absolutely nothing, just a deep, tranquil stillness and a few tethered donkeys shifting in the dark.
And this is where the spy proved how dangerous he really is. He didn't attempt an assassination. He just executed a psychological strike. He let them know that all their evasive maneuvers in the cemetery failed. He found them anyway.
And it forces their hand. Asha immediately realizes they cannot stay another hour. She begs Idris to leave the caravanserai before dawn, but Idris hesitates. He points out a logistical nightmare.
The desert.
Yeah, if they leave now, without a merchant caravan, they will be traveling completely alone across the desert to Harappa, which is a full day and a night's journey away.
Which is where Asha's strategic logic actually outshines Idris's caution. She correctly argues that if they wait for a large public caravan to form in the morning, the spy will easily learn of it and simply track them on the open road where they are highly visible.
That makes total sense.
By leaving immediately, in the dead of night, they use the spy's own complacency against him.
They realize the spy is operating on assumptions.
Exactly. The spy likely assumed they wouldn't dare vanish into the dark, dangerous desert alone. He probably went to sleep, planning to resume his watch comfortably in the morning. Asha realizes their only advantage is doing the one thing the spy thinks is too irrational to attempt.
So they decide to execute a tactical retreat right then and there. And the tension of this midnight flight is just incredible. They don't even dare light the lamp. Asha draws a heavy curtain across the iron bars to block any stray moonlight so the spy can't see their shadows.
Total blackout.
Yeah, they work completely in the dark. Asha is scooping dried barley into a sack by touch. Idris is filling the leather water skins to the brim in absolute silence. They crack open the chamber door, Idris scouts the corridor, and they creep out to a secluded grove of castor trees.
And the detail of the camel is wonderful here.
I love the camel part.
It's sitting in the darkness, calmly chewing its cud, completely unaware of the life or death stakes. Idris unties it, pats its knees, and the well-trained beast rises and walks on soft padded steps so they can clear the sleeping caravanserai without making a single sound.
They slip out beyond the city gates onto a faint path that just vanishes into the vast sandy wastes of the desert. And they ride for an hour in unbroken, tense silence before Idris finally lets out a breath of relief.
But he's still cautious.
Very. Asha is praising God, saying they've broken free. But Idris, ever the pragmatist, warns her softly that it is still entirely possible the spy is tracking their trail even now.
He understands that distance creates the illusion of safety, but it doesn't guarantee it. And the ensuing journey is a grueling physical and psychological test.
It is brutal. They ride tirelessly through the dark hours, refusing to pause. The text describes the pale light of dawn revealing scattered groves of date palms and hardy castor trees rising from the shifting sand.
And then the heat hits.
The heat grows fierce. They finally rest briefly at a small, clear desert spring oasis, washing the dust off their faces, letting the camel drink, and then pushing on beneath a relentless sun. They travel all through that grueling day, and the paranoia slowly gives way to just sheer physical exhaustion. But before evening, the barren sand finally gives way to lush, cultivated fields.
The universal sign of approaching civilization. They have reached Harappa.
And the emotional shift in the narrative here is massive. Asha's weary face lights up with radiant joy. Harappa mirrors Mohenjo-Daro. It is prosperous, orderly, and alive with commerce. She guides the camel through the marketplaces until they halt before a magnificent, sprawling mansion.
Her father's ancestral home.
Yes, they walk right through the gates. But in her absolute exhaustion and excitement, Asha hasn't had a moment to shed her disguise.
Which provides a fantastic narrative payoff to the setup we discussed at the very beginning of our deep dive. The disguise served its purpose, right up to the very last second.
It really did. Her parents are shocked. They demand to know why two dust-covered young men are barging into the private courtyard of their residence. And without a word, Asha pulls off her heavy turban and lets her long hair fall loose.
Must have been quite a moment.
The parents instantly recognize her. There are cries of shock, tears of pure, unrestrained joy. They throw their arms around her. It is this beautiful, cathartic reunion after a long, agonizing separation. Asha introduces Idris, telling her family how he guarded her honor and life across every dangerous league of the journey.
It really feels like the perfect ending. The bodyguard has completed his vow. Idris stays as an honored guest for 2 days, treated with the warmest hospitality and immense gratitude. On the third day, his task officially complete, he takes his leave to journey back to Mohenjo-Daro.
But, of course, the narrative delivers a massive gut punch right at the very end.
It changes everything.
It does. Listeners, as Idris steps through the gates of the mansion and merges into the busy marketplace, the text reveals that a dark shadow is lingering nearby. Concealed in a recessed alleyway just outside the mansion walls is the spy.
The spy is there.
The exact same mysterious figure of the one-eyed prince. He is watching Asha stand near the entrance of her home, laughing with her family, entirely at peace. and the spy just nods slowly. A dark, triumphant smile creeps across his face, and he steps back into the crowd, vanishing from sight.
If we connect this twist back to everything we've just discussed, it completely recontextualizes the entire escape sequence.
It totally changes the spy's motivations. We thought he was incompetent for losing them in the desert.
Exactly. He didn't lose them at all. He simply recognized that his objective had evolved. When they fled Mohenjo-Daro in the dead of night, he didn't need to ambush them on the open road. He didn't need to risk a bloody sword fight with a highly trained Syrian warrior like Idris.
Which he might have lost.
Precisely. He just needed to exercise extreme operational patience. He followed their tracks for a day and a night across a barren desert to their final destination. His task was never to capture her in transit. His task was to find exactly where the runaway slave girl ultimately lived.
Oh, wow. By fleeing directly to her parents' home in a panic, Asha and Idris unwittingly did the spy's job for him.
They showed him the way.
They led him right to the one place she is most vulnerable, completely bypassing her defenses. The one-eyed Prince of Egypt's mission was a resounding success, and they don't even know it.
It is a devastating realization. They survived the battle, but they lost the war without even realizing the terms of engagement had shifted.
It connects right back to that feeling we talked about at the beginning. How easily you and I can confuse a temporary reprieve with permanent safety. They endured the desert, the paranoia, the physical exhaustion. They genuinely believed they had outsmarted their pursuer, only to hand-deliver their permanent location to the very person hunting them.
It leaves you with a deeply unsettling philosophical question about the nature of a highly connected world. Consider the magnificent infrastructure that made Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa so great. The impeccably paved roads, the massive predictable trade routes, the cosmopolitan mingling of foreign travelers that allowed anyone to blend in.
Yeah.
These are the hallmarks of a thriving, advanced society. But aren't these exact same systems the very things that allowed a foreign prince from Egypt to send an operative across the known world to flawlessly track a single individual?
That is a chilling thought to leave on. Does an advanced, hyper-connected civilization make us safer, or does it just build the perfect infrastructure for our past to eventually catch up with us? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We hope it gave you something new to consider, and we encourage you to keep questioning the stories of the past. Until next time.